Hi everybody, this is Thomas Trimmingham, screenprintingartist.com. Subscribe down below and you won't miss any videos. I'm going to go ahead and work on a retro surf design. It's kind of a popular thing amongst t-shirt designers these days, so I'm going to go ahead and add a page here. And we're going to try to do this relatively quickly. Now some of you that have seen my videos before know that I kind of like to work fast. I'm going to use the circle tool here. Hit the P key to center it on the page. I'm also going to put a square background on here. I mean, you can change the page color as well. I kind of like to just have a square. It gives me a little more versatility. Sometimes I want to throw something behind, all the way behind the square to hide it or something. So it's just the way I work. And what I'm going to do here now, I'm going to make this background for retro, kind of background for retro surf design. So I'm just going to make a little cut piece here out of the square tool. I'm going to make sure it's wider than my circle. I click the circle and the background, so I'm going to select everything and then hit center. And that centers everything vertically. I'm going to use this gap. I'm going to slide it down about the same distance from here to the top. I'll just slide it down here once and click right about here. I'll right click and then I'll hit the D key, duplicate it a couple times, and I want to see if I have about the same amount of space. It looks like I got pretty lucky here. I might just squeeze it a little bit just to get it right about there, and I can hit the Control G key. Whoops, I think I hit the wrong quick key. I can have these selected. I can hit the Control, it's already grouped them, and then when I hit that, and then I can click here, and then I can hit the E key and center them. That centers them horizontally. And then now what I can do is just take this, because this is my cut right here. I'm going to click that. I'm going to go up to hit the trim tool, the property bar. I hit trim, and you can see that knocked out all these pieces. And now I select them all and I hit Control K, break them apart. Now they're all broken out into pieces. Now what I'm going to do, just as reference, I'm just going to do these two side rectangles, and you'll see why in a second. The top one is yellow, the brightest yellow that I have, and the bottom one I'll just do red. I'm going to hit the Control-Shift-S key to save it, and I'm just going to hit Surf 1. It's always a good idea to save your design before you get too far in. And then, you make sure it's saved here. I'm going to click get rid of another file that was open just to give me some more memory. And then I'm going to hit the Blend key here. Now count how many you have in between. So this is going to be your red one, this is going to be your yellow one. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when I blend this, I go up here and I want to hit 6. And I hit that, and then what I can do is just real quick take the eyedropper tool, click here and then there, and then hold the shift key, and you can pick up the next color. And you can see this is one way to rapidly fill this with a fair blend from top to bottom. Now the reason I didn't just blend these is, of course, that would distort the image and distort those pieces. I'm going to hit Control S to save. I'm going to get rid of my outline on the background right there. And now I want to make my type. Obviously you have to say surf, right? That's 1. I'll probably add just a little thing below that says all caps. I'll say club. I'm going to say 68 just for those of us that are a little older, and then I'll say ride the wave right there like that. And I'm going to break this apart, Control K, surf. I'm going to let's use a different font here. Let's use an old school font. This is one of the ones off defont.com, I think called Milestone. It's a nice font. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. I'm going to boost up the front cap here, just kind of off center it. So what I did there was I hit Control K, broke it apart, but it's still font, because you can see down here. And then I moved it up and just expanded it a little bit, just a little more even. And then I'm going to break apart the rest of these, because these should all be individual letters now. And now I can hit Control Q, and if I went to wireframe mode, you'd see how there's still individual pieces overlapping. But I don't want that. I want them all merged. So I'm going to go ahead and merge them all. So you hit that weld key, and now they're all welded together. And I can bring this over here, and I know I want it near the bottom, kind of. I don't want to totally cover up that stuff, but I'm going to bring it up here. And then I need a tail, a little bit of a tail on it. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a tail. I'm just going to kind of hand do this using the mouse. I'm going to go a little bit down and then here, and then I'll just go up like this, and then I'm just kind of trying to do the best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect because I can go in really rapidly with my node tool here, and I can add a node like this, and I want this to marry up with these edges anyways, so I'm going to kind of move the handles around. You see I can move those handles and line it up, and if it doesn't align perfectly, you can just move your nodes. See, and I want it to start skinny and then get a little bigger as it goes, and you can do that by adjusting the handles. One really good way to do this, and I've shown this before in other videos, is just to average nodes. So you make 2 nodes and then you delete the one in the middle. And that's what I'm going to do here and here. And I'll get rid of these 2. And it should round it a little bit. See how that rounded that? And I'll try this here, this one, and then I'll go here, here, and then I'll get rid of these 2. And see how that rounded it out? And that's always a kind of a good way to do it. Now I'm going to go here, and this one I'm just going to go here, and then I'm going to get rid of these nodes in the middle here, and see how that smooths that out. And I'll come and do the same thing here. I'll double click here, because I kind of like those positions, but I don't really want the nodes that are making it clunky in between. So I'll try to get rid of all those. I'll delete them. And see how that makes it nice and smoother? And then this looks a little funky down here. I hit the middle mouse key to pan over. I'm going to double click here. We'll get rid of these, delete. And then we can just use the handles here. Let's see where that handle is. I'll just draw it up. And draw it up a little bit. And then that's pretty much there. And then I'm going to grab these, and just so I'm not hitting the rest of my font, I'm just going to kind of move it here. I'm just going to move it down here. Just give me about the same distance between those 2 pieces. I'm going to hit save. And then let's go ahead and take a look. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and close it. So I hit the freehand tool. You got to have it, well, it's clicked on here and selected just the tail part. I'm going to hit the freehand tool, and then you see when it becomes that arrow right there. Click that, and that makes it one solid piece. And then you can save it. Control S, and then this, select this. I can move it, make sure that's right, and then click this and go ahead and weld it. And if there's awkwardness here, what you can do is, again, same thing. Click, and get rid of your awkward nodes. And then you see how there's a little lump there I'm not really that crazy about. So I'm just going to go back a little bit. And I'm just going to say, I don't want this. That'll smooth it out a little bit. And you can always use the handles as well to kind of even it out. Sometimes that's the easiest thing to do with these. There we go. Like that. Let me zoom out. Okay. And that's a kind of a quick way to make a tail. Save it. And then I'm going to go back to enhanced mode. So Alt-V-E. And I go back to enhanced mode. And now this is going to be white. And we'll probably angle it just a slight bit here, angle it slightly up, and then I'm going to create a double kind of outline to this. So the first outline, I'm going to make this as black because it's going on a black shirt, and so I'm going to come down here, double click, I'm going to go to the back. So I want to make an outline. I'm going to use the eyedropper to just grab that background, and then the point tool, I'll probably go about 12-ish, and you want to go behind and then scale with object. I also want them around the corners and around the edges, just so that it's not, and I'm looking at it right here, that's a little bit small yet, so I'm going to go ahead and go up to 14. I'm going to say OK, and that'll get nice and big then. And then I'm going to click this, and I'm going to go up to duplicates and clones, make sure they're 0, and they are. I'm going to hit Control D, page down, double click, and then I'm going to, from 14 I'm going to go up to, let's go up to 17. Then let's go ahead and grab an orange. Let's see how that looks. Let's go 16. Let's go 18. See how that works. I'll say OK. This is 18, but some didn't really expand much. Let me see what happened here. It should have been a lot thicker than it is. Let's just double check right here. Orange one, and this one is what? 14? Alright, I guess it just got to go a lot bigger. Let's go double click here. Let's go 26. There we go. Yeah. And now with that, we just got to add in some of the other effects here. I'm probably going to make one more of this just to keep going with a retro theme. Let me undo and redo, and I'll go Control D, page down. Let me hit a double here. So it's at 26. Let's go 36. Say okay, okay. And then I've got a triple outline here, and I'm going to hit group. And then what we can do then is you can click this whole thing. Oops, I selected these and ungrouped those as well. So let me ungroup it. We don't need this grouped or that grouped. And then I'll group this. And if you were curious about what you grouped or if you grouped the wrong thing, you can hit up and down. Oh, see, I got that top panel. So I'm going to ungroup that. So I'm going to hold the shift key, shift page up. Oh, still something wonky's going on here. Two. Shift page up, group, and delete. Interesting, I'm still missing one of my pieces here. Alright, let me just ungroup. I'll hit ungroup a bunch of times, and then I'll grab everything, and then I'll deselect, deselect, and deselect, and then group it all. There we go. And save it. And then I'll duplicate it, Control D, shift page down, and then I'll go ahead and kind of bump it off to the side and then fill it twice. So it just kind of sets it off there, and I'll hit save. And then what we want here, we're going to have club. I'll probably put club in there. So let's do an athletic kind of font just for that. This will work. That's, you see, let me move that up, shift page up. Here, we'll go ahead and go with this. And we want to spread that lettering out, so I use the shape tool to spread it out a little bit. I'm going to squash it just a hair. And then I'm going to come in here, and let's go ahead and go with the envelope tool just to make it fit that. And we'll go single arc. Then I can bend it here, bend it there. Single arc is good to start with, so you can kind of get a rough idea, and then you can always go back, change it, and leave it to putty, and then you can move these around a little bit more, and you'll see that I can I can adjust the individual handles now, and I can just click the node and then pull it down, and then make this up, and you can always lift it up a little bit, and then if I need to center it, I can just nudge it up. The nudge tools. And in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and double click and go 4-point outline, behind fill, and maybe 6. Say okay, double click, and we'll click here. Go ahead and grab that orange again. Say okay. Orange. There we go. Save it. S. Zoom out. And then this can be bigger. Probably use the same font that's in that athletic. This I'm going to arc over, but I'll do that at the end. And I'll probably use a thinner font, something that's a little more compressed for that. Maybe like a Bank Gothic or something like that. Maybe there's a Bank Gothic that's a little bolder. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Let me hit Control S, and now I just need a couple of palm trees here. And then what I'm going to do for palm trees, I think I'm just going to make them, which is always a little risky, but we'll go ahead and give it a shot here. I'm just using the mouse, just trying to make a side of a palm tree. And then what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and duplicate it, and then I'll bring it back together here like this, and then I can always kind of tweak the top nodes together a little bit here, a little bit here. Hold the Shift key, Control L combines it, and then we can join those. And then here, come down. This we might have to join too. Might as well join it near the bottom. See how that becomes an arrow? I'll just make a little cap there. That'll work. And then we'll straighten it just so I can arc it. So I'm going to make it vertical. I'll fill it black, no outline. And then I'll use the envelope tool, single arch, to kind of arch it this way. See how that's looking there. That's not bad. And then if you wanted more pieces, you could always take this and then reduce it in size a little bit and then add it to the top. You know, just equal it out and then kind of add a couple more pieces here, which is a quick way of doing it. I'm just making a little square to cut it right now. So you use the freehand tool and then you hold the Shift key, click here, cut it here, and then delete, and then this. Just need to reduce a little bit so that it fits on top of this. You can always weld it together and then zoom in, just make sure there's no clunky spots. Just get rid of anything that's really clunky here. And hit save again. And then I need the top of the palm tree, which is usually the tricky part. But you can start off by just kind of making an arch out here, and then you click, and then you just kind of create like a single fan here, pretty much for the most part. And then that is kind of like the first one, the first kind of like palm leaf. And then I'll just make a couple other ones here. And then you can always, once you get one, you can kind of just here, just as a reference here, and I'll probably make two more, but for now we can just kind of use these. I can get that there. And then this, just move up out of the way. And what we're doing here now, we're going to use the pan tool here a little bit, and then so I'm going to have these pretty much located in the same spot on the palm tree here. You can create a couple of shapes here just to kind of take up some space. So go here and then right click, and then let me save it. And then what we're going to do here, just using this as a reference, I'm going to come up here and use them. I'm going to use this this artistic media tool. I'm going to kind of make it a little bit bigger. Whoops, I didn't want to make it on there. I want to make my own, so make sure I deselect when I'm doing this tool here. And let me just see how that works. See, that's about right. So about a 0.1 with an arch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of make my shapes here. And just kind of go ahead and make my palm tree here. And remember, with palm trees, it's kind of weird, but it's okay if they're not perfectly symmetrical. So you can kind of, and then some of them you want to cross over, because they do. That'll give you more of a realistic look on some of these. And then just, you know, you can kind of rapidly make like a, you know, your little palm pieces, essentially, which can look pretty cool. It's a kind of a pretty realistic look, and they do get longer as they come near the bottom, so it's good to remember. And you can make plenty of them and make them overlap a little bit. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And like I said, every once in a while throw one that kind of goes wonky, and that gives you a realistic palm frond. And then I usually make one basic one there. That's kind of like one that's folded on itself a little bit in the wind, and then you can do another one up here. And I'm not going to put you guys through the pain of watching me do this whole thing, but what I am going to show you is these are going to be a little shorter on this one, but I'm also going to have some top ones. Oops. And you can always hit Control Z to undo it, but I want to have some top ones on this that are going to flare out to the side. So if you get some that are, and if you want to go, you can always lower the size of it too if it's looking like it's too much there. And you can kind of see, whoops, Control Z if you get into trouble there. You just kind of go in here, just kind of rapidly making our little palm tree here, making the little palm leaves, and then here you can finish this up. And then once you have two, you can pretty much duplicate them, right? You don't need to be keeping, and it's okay to cross over to the other one as well, because they overlap in palm trees, and you can just use it a reference if you want. You know, you can get a palm tree out. You know, the nice thing about doing things this way is, again, you're not using clip art. It can be pretty organic, and you can get a lot of nice negative space you can kind of control, because when you're using clip art, you're pretty much tied to whatever the artist or whatever the photo was. And this way you can really craft something around a certain shape. You'll notice that this is a different color than my other one, and which is okay because I wanted that as a reference. I wanted to see if these were, you know, looking pretty decent. And you know, you can even grab chunks of them and move them and double click them if you want them denser. But that gives you an idea. Like I could use a little bit more down here. So if I want them to be denser, I can just kind of like fatten them up at some point and just really, you know, make that kind of working for me here. If there's some weirdness, you can always move them down a little bit, but you get the idea. And then I can take this whole piece and I can group it, and then I can just dupe it, and then I kind of rotate it here and rotate it down here. And maybe I don't need the circles right here, so I can delete those. But you get the idea. The other thing you can do, you can shrink it this way a little bit. Another thing you can do is you can use your envelope tool, and you can put it on a single curve here, and you can kind of, you know, if I use the Control key, I can kind of warp it, right? So then, and then twist it a little more, so it rapidly becomes an extra palm leaf. And then, you know, just for expediency's sake, I'm going to go ahead and right click and then flip it, just so I can get this done, so you guys can kind of see where I'm coming from here. And I'm just using, see, I use those other handles to just kind of map it here, and then whoops, and then I can just right click again for expediency's sake. I'm just kind of doing this quicker than I normally would. Maybe you'd, and then maybe this one you would want a duplicate of that. Group, duplicate, let me flip it this way, like this, and we'll just go here. And sometimes these get compressed, right, from foreshortening in the front, so it kind of looks like that. And then you could always have one here which is like a lot smaller and just kind of pointed down, which is usually a good thing to do here. Kind of fits in there. Yeah, so you get the idea. Maybe I'll shorten this one a little bit as well, turn it down a little bit. That kind of gives you a and you know, you can arc them more, you can do different things. This gives you the idea though on how to kind of start with a palm tree, where you're making it like pretty organic. So I'm gonna, the nice thing is, again, it's not clip art, it's kind of made from scratch. If you don't like your trunk, you can always widen it if you feel like it's not, you know, realistic or something. So I just duped it there. And I can weld it if I want to, or I can just group it. I'm going to go ahead and group it. I'm going to group this whole thing. Group it. And I'm going to hit Control Q to convert it all to curves. Control K, Control Q again. It's all grouped. Bring it down in size a little bit. And bring it in here. And then kind of rotate it a little bit, just kind of so it goes the arc with this right here. And then you can always grab it, right click, flip it this way. Now, I don't want a perfectly symmetrical one, so I'm going to shrink it a little bit. And then I can also come in here and I can move these around just a little bit so I don't have, what looks like a perfectly symmetrical palm tree. They don't match perfect that way. I can even give it a little bit of variation versus the other one. And then, a lot of times what you'll have is you'll have a second one on the other side, but it's smaller because it's off in the distance, so you just kind of shrink that down. You can kind of have it here, almost like not even all the way on the design, but it's kind of like that, but down a little bit. It's not touching the other one. And you kind of just down a little lower. You get the idea. So then you can kind of work with those pieces like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and save this, Control S, and then my 68, I'm going to go ahead and bring that in here because I kind of want that offset at the top. Make Control K, offset it over here. And I'm just going to use an outline, but a little bit of a thicker one. Probably use like a 10-point outline. I'm going to fill it with nothing, so it just kind of overlaps there because I want it to kind of fall out like that. And I'll probably take this and this, and I'll go duplicate it one more time. Control D, put page down, and then I'll put like an 18-point black on it, so it knocks it out from the background. Say OK, like that. And then this ride the wave part, I'm just going to put arch over the top here, right here. Created a circle, and so I can see my circle, I'm just going to change it red real quick. And then what I want to do is, let me see if these aren't merged together. So what I want to do is I want to kind of merge them all together. Whoops, it's not letting me grab that middle. Here, let me jump in here, make sure I can get that middle red one. There we go. Move up, holding the shift key to select them all. I'm going to group them. This way I can center my circle on this. Hit C and E. So now it's centered on my inner circle, see? Hit this Control S key, save it, come in, zoom in. Then I'm going to grab this. I'm going to go text, fit text to path. Be careful I don't hit those palm trees because then that might want to refresh the whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and hit white. And I'll go ahead and grab this down. I'm going to spread this out a lot. I'm not worried that my palm tree is overhitting it because I'm just going to, and then hold the shift key to extend it a little bit. And I'm going to go here and drag it around a little bit, like right about there, I think. I'm going to hit Control C, Control V, paste it on top. And then let's see if I got it here. Nope, something isn't getting wonky here. I'm trying to move it. Maybe I'll delete it. You know what I'll do? I'll just bring this whole thing up to the front. Shift page up. There we go. And then this, and I'll just duplicate it, Control D, and I'll leave it on the path. And then this one I'll click twice, and I'll just move it around because that's what I wanted to do anyways. So I'll move it over to here so it's equal to the other side. Somewhere around there. This one, let's go ahead and move the 6 away from the 8 a little bit so they're not touching. Like that. Got the 8. Just using the nudge tools and the shift key to kind of get them centered. This is good. I'm going to hit Control Q, break it apart. Converts it to a curve, and then I don't have to worry about it getting distorted. And then I'm going to delete my curve, my paths. I'm going to save my design. And then my last step is going to be to create well, I'm going to put one more palm tree in here, I think, behind this surf. I'll probably put it down here. Right click, so I merged it, and then I'll just made it a little bigger. Click again, rotate. There we go, here. Like that. And then I'm just going to shift page down and then control page up. And you just nudge it a few times. Go ahead and rotate over here. Like that. And then I'm going to save this file, Control S, and now I'm just going to distress this thing and we should be good to go. So distress, a distress filter on this. Let's go ahead and select everything. I notice I got a little clip here, so I want to make sure my surf is above. Shift page up. Now I've got these other, one thing that you notice is you've got these other things hanging out. So I go for Alt VW. If you want to clean up your design, there's a couple ways you could do it. One way you could just take these and power clip them in. If you really wanted to clean things up and make them nice and neat, you could cut them. I would probably do that, or you could power clip them. Either one. I mean, sometimes complex objects in a power clip isn't the best because it may give you problems, but I think these will be okay. See E, I'm centering it on this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, hold the shift key, take that one, this one, this one, this one. I'm going to Control G as group. And then I grouped them all, so I'm going to save my file. And you'll see it. You know, usually there's a little icon down there that'll say save. See that little save button? Then you know it's saving. And a lot of times it's good to wait till that finishes. And then when I take all this, now I can go Object, and we'll see if it let me do it. Power clip, place inside frame, and then it'll go on this circle right here. And now it disappears on your wireframe. And you're like, oh no, I lost it, but you didn't. So it just cleaned it up, so you not have all these edges hanging off. So if I go Alt V E, you see it put them in that object that's riding on top. And so now I can just take this outline right here and I can turn the outline off. And now I don't have these edges floating around. Now all I have to do is basically take this and I go shift page down, put it to back, and then control and then page up a couple times. And now that cutout is confined to an object that's just a little bit bigger, and it's a lot easier, right? So I'm going to save this, and now I just want to distress this whole thing. So I'm going to zoom up here. Let's grab all the active elements and center them. Control G is group, hit the shift key, CE, so we centered them all on that page. Control S is to save. And now let's bring in a distress filter real quick. We're going to go ahead and go desktop, and we'll go, I think I had it under retro surf here. Retro surf, here it is. And we get this background texture off of free pick. Import it. And you never know quite how these are going to do, but I wanted a wood look to this. I'm going to go ahead and bring this down because it's already looks like panels kind of with the retro look. And so I was going to leave it sideways and see if I could get kind of a funky pattern out of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go bitmap, mode, grayscale, save your file, and then what I want to do is squeeze this so we get a higher contrast. So bitmap, let's go to effects, adjust, tone curve on this, and then what we're going to do, let's reset it, and let's knock the white point up a lot, and then we'll knock the black point over. And see how some of this is kind of nice in there? That's what you want. You want an area where you've got a lot of white coming through, but there's a lot of grittiness too. So you can kind of see that there. It's like a really sweet piece to this. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And then what I'll do is let me zoom in here and see I got some nice stuff here. That's probably what I'll use. So it's one thing, you don't have to have a whole perfect image. You can have just a partial, and I'll show you can almost make like a brush out of it. And that's what I'm doing here with the distress. You go bitmap, mode, and then you go black and white, because you need it to be in monochrome too. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I don't want halftone. I want probably go line art here. And so it's going to crush it to, see that line art right there? And I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And now convert it to line art. Look at all this nice gritty kind of detail here. And so what I'm going to do with this detail is I'm going to fill it with nothing. And then just for grins, I'm going to right click it on one of these grays. And then I can kind of lay it on top of my design here and see where this is kind of like, it's enough but not too much, right? So I really like kind of, like I said, right about there. So that's kind of a sweet spot right there. So what I'm going to do is this area right here. So what I want to do is I'm going to create a little box here like this. And I'll go ahead and take this. I'm going to right click it on my background color. And I'll go Object, Power Clip, Place Inside Frame. I'm going to Power Clip it in here. So I made almost, like I said, like a little brush. And this texture can kind of drop on top. And what's nice about that is you don't have all that extra hanging off everywhere. And you can kind of see, well, that's a little bit heavy of a distress. So what I want to do is I'm going to make a smaller brush. So I drop it down in size here. And see, that gives me kind of a nice distress, and I can kind of stretch it out there a little bit. Maybe it's a little too much on the bottom here, so I can move it over. That's kind of nice. And then when I go up here, I can right click and just duplicate it. And then what I'll do is I'll go ahead and take it here and I'll flip it. I'm going to come up to the top. That kind of gave that a little bit of distress. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring this to the middle, about here. And this is too heavy in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and edit it. And that'll open up the whole thing. And you'll see this here. And what I'll do is I'll just move this up so that I'm getting rid of a lot of my distress inside of the box. There's just a little bit on the edges. And I'll say finish. It'll take a little while. It takes a little while to refresh because these are big bitmaps. So just wait it out. And I probably should save the file before I do a lot of bitmap work, but it's not necessarily bad. And you see that line there? I don't want that line, so I'm going to put that line even with the line on the job. Same thing with here. I may want to marry that line up with that line. And then this, I can just kind of move it and go down to roughly here. Or go up one and go here. And there we go. So we got a distress, kind of vintage looking surf design. Done relatively quickly and ready to separate for screen print. And again, subscribe to my YouTube if you like this video, and feel free to leave me comments below and let me know what you think.